Hello everyone, I am Seni Park, the head of Seni Park Mind Coaching. Today, I would like to explain to you how to muster courage. You want to be courageous? It's not easy, is it? Actually, I'm the same way. My father named me Seni Park with the name Seni, meaning strength, courage, and timing, but I don't think I was someone who had courage from the beginning. On the contrary, I often felt very discouraged due to a lack of courage, and I found it difficult to present myself in front of others. Even though I lived a life where I couldn't show great courage to others then, when I was young, as time passed, and I reached my early to mid-20s, I think I started to show actions that demonstrated my efforts to be courageous. So, you mentioned that you lacked courage, but if we talk a bit about your childhood, you were born in Sindangdong, Junggu, and lived there until you were about 7 years old. Until you were around 5, there was an older boy in the neighborhood, and you were a year older than him. Since I was small in stature, from a young age, that older boy kept hitting me, his younger brother by a year. So I would always go home crying after getting hit, and as this kept repeating, my father, perhaps not liking this situation, took me to a taekwondo gym when I turned 6. So I experienced a bit of a culture shock there, watching the students practicing taekwondo with such discipline and spirit. I thought to myself, this is different. It felt like I gained a sense of fulfillment or courage. And on my way home, I encountered a bully. When the bully was about to hit me, unlike before, I instinctively used the punching technique I had practiced with a shout. And as I kept hitting, he fell to the ground crying, and the kids next to him also started crying. Initially, I was a weak presence, but at certain turning points, I gained insight and strength and resilience, and I think I always took courageous actions whenever necessary. In the past, my father had quite a bit of debt because he lent a lot of money to family members and didn't get it back. They invested without properly checking, and all the money disappeared like that, gradually depleting our family's wealth. Eventually, when my father borrowed millions from the bank, I felt very lacking in courage and often felt endlessly down. I often wondered if I could handle this, but fortunately, I continued to study the mind, especially the unconscious. I had a desire to know more about it, and since I was a student, I kept meeting people, helping them, and receiving money. I continued to give lectures, or education, and from the age of 28, I started creating classes that didn't exist in the country to help students, showing them what could be done. In doing so, I started earning millions from a young age. But if I go back to the past, even in January and February of 2004, I had to burst into the academy and get things started. Yes, at that time no one was aware of or felt the need for psychology classes. And as a 28-year-old graduate student, it took tremendous courage to open the door and walk in. Now it might seem like a natural and obvious action, but before opening the door, countless thoughts run through your mind. What if I get rejected here again? What if they think poorly of me? Naturally, these thoughts are bound to come to mind. However, the fortunate thing is that I always first establish a mindset that strongly believes in something more and the most fundamental values of this world, and it seems I was able to muster the courage to enter without any prior agreement. Therefore, I aim to help and ensure that many of my students properly understand how to muster such courage and adopt this mindset. To those watching this video, although I may not be able to explain everything in detail, I will introduce a sentence I like and explain it to you. Courage is doing what you are afraid to do. There can be no courage unless you are scared. This means that courage is doing something you are afraid of. So, if you are not afraid, then there is no courage at all. That's what it means. Being afraid, being able to do that is what courage is. If you're not afraid, and just do it confidently, that can't really be called courage. In a way, so everyone is afraid at first. It's not just you who is afraid. It's true that everyone is afraid. However, some people continue to accept that fear while focusing on what needs to be focused on, and the question is whether they can manifest something through action or make a change. You should think of it as a minor difference. If you consider it a big difference, you'll feel like you can never do it. So keep thinking that being afraid is natural, and doing it despite being afraid is courage. Therefore, it's natural for me to be afraid, and it's about continuing to do it while knowing I'm afraid. That's why students take practice exams. This is about creating systematic desensitization. By repeatedly taking exams as if they are practice, you train yourself so that when the actual exam comes, the fear gradually decreases. This has the effect of reducing fear and trembling, allowing you to demonstrate your abilities in a more composed state. When young men approach women or make advances, it also requires a lot of courage. You might think you'll be rejected, among other thoughts, but there was something in a book about this. Try talking to 100 women in a day, asking for their phone numbers or something similar, and experience being rejected by them. And when you try it that way, it's actually not a big deal. Understand that the first time is difficult and accept fear as a friend, while telling yourself that you will gradually overcome it with actions that surpass this fear. I think having this kind of mindset is very good. Lastly, there's one thing I'd like to explain. The teacher also rides a bike, and if you look at something like MotoGP, which is a bike race, there are tracks. They are winding like this. But where do accidents happen on the track? It's where there are sharp corners. In places with sharp corners, you need to turn quickly. But as you turn, slipping can occur, leading to accidents. So, when entering a corner, you tend to slow down a bit. And as you enter the corner, your heart usually starts pounding. Your breathing becomes rapid, and your body tenses up. You become rigid. What is this? It means you're feeling fear. You enter while feeling fear, but if you keep doing this through systematic desensitization, you gradually learn your limits and think, oh, I can turn at this speed. Let's try going a bit faster. And as you keep doing this, you can handle it well through systematic desensitization. So, if you practice this a lot, you can become one of the best in the world. Looking at the current world champions, for example, Valentino Rossi in MotoGP, and Michael Schumacher, who was once considered a legend in car racing, if you measure their heart rate and brainwaves while they take corners. These top-of-the-top individuals now actually relax their muscle tension when entering a corner. This means they are relaxed, and instead of their breathing becoming rapid, it actually slows down. And instead of unstable beta waves, they exhibit more stable alpha waves. What this means is that they perceive it not with fear, but with enjoyment. So how can one achieve this? Systematic desensitization, as mentioned earlier, involves repeating these aspects countless times more than others, accumulating data that builds self-belief. Additionally, one must have a much stronger sense of purpose about why they live compared to others. I was born to run. I was born to dominate the track even more. Thoughts like these, I was born to prove that. By constantly having these thoughts, eventually when others are afraid, find it difficult or make excuses because they are tired and can't focus, if I keep thinking that my very existence is for this, eventually I will be able to live a life where I can turn it into pure enjoyment rather than fear. I have known and acknowledged for a long time that such a state exists, and I live my life thinking and believing in this way. I hope you all do your best to reach that state as well. Let's conclude here for today. Be courageous. Bug spray on. Tweak. Tweak. Lying bug spray. Tweak. Tweak, tweak, bug spray. Tweak.